Well, funny enough, I started my road to being an HR guy by being fired, focusing on the concept of you can be blue collar and you can be professional. A lot of companies do worry about marijuana and that.
Like somebody's not bringing enough for the whole team.
That's the question that I normally respond with first and foremost is, okay, this is what's happened, this is the situation. What do you want as a final outcome? Mm-hmm. Can I get you there?
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Plumbing and HVAC Hustle Podcast. And today I have Ian Schotanus from the Big Picture Consulting. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're talking about things you should know about your HR to get better results from your people. And we're talking about what you do, but I think I always like to try to resolve that if people want to pick your brain, because I know that as an HR guy, that people probably want to pick your brain a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so we're going to let you pick his brain during this through me, but I would love it if you could start with just a little bit of background on how you got into this.
Well, funny enough, I started my road to being an HR guy by being fired for getting upset with a senior technician. I was working Geek Squad technician on the service floor. I was fixing a senior tech's work all the time. I got a little too loud about my disagreement with that when he was getting paid more than me, and I was fired like that. Just corporate, didn't matter how good I was, didn't matter production, anything like that. I scared a CSR that was down the hallway, and that was enough.
So you've never been too afraid of controversy?
Oh, no. I don't shy away from argument. I'm blue collar myself. I didn't come to HR the traditional way. All my beginning history is all technical.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the podcast. But first, what are some of the biggest questions people have when they want to pick your brain? What are some things that people need the most in their HR?
The number one question that I get day to day is, how do I fire this person? Should I fire this person for lack of performance, for not showing up? Just how do I do it and not get sued? At the end of the day, a lot of my job just revolves around avoiding the need or minimizing the risk of lawyers getting involved.
So what are the biggest things that would get lawyers involved normally? Like how can people avoid that if you had to give a few tips?
Communication. Every lawsuit comes down to a disagreement in expectations, way more often than any actual legal problem. The challenge comes in is employee expects, I'm going to get paid this much for this job. Well, the compensation plan is so convoluted that I don't know how you came up to this number, so I think you stole money from me, so I'm going to sue. Or you fired me for what you said was performance, but I think it's really because of my race, gender, religion, so on and so forth. So it's really about learning how to communicate with your employees to manage expectations, to know where they're at and what they're thinking, as well as what you're trying to expect from them. Without that communication, it just leaves the vulnerability.
So one thing my lawyer has advised me when we're letting people go is that it's hard to share a ton of the details about why they're letting go without it being open for discussion. So in your experience, how can you do, honestly, it feels inhuman sometimes. And I know that it's led to some frustration from people that got fired from our company because they don't feel like they really know why. Even if it was egregious and obvious about a problem, like they weren't doing some of their work. We've had people that you could tell, God, I wish we could have just taken 15 minutes and given them the basic explanation of why.
So it's a complicated topic.
Yes.
Because yes, you absolutely want to give a reason. 49 out of 50 states are what's called at-will employment, which means you can let somebody go for any or no reason at all, which is fine. The problem is that if you don't give them any reason, they are going to fill in the blank themselves. And that's never going to look good for the company. So
yeah, we usually give a few, a paragraph, but not 15 minutes.
For at-will separations, I summarize it to one line. At-will separation for failure to meet performance expectations, attendance expectations, attitude expectations, something like that.
Attitude expectations is an interesting one. It's like, honestly, the last few years, and I'm not just going to go on, because I'm sure other people have this problem too. It's like, performance is a little easier.
Yeah.
Attitude is a little confusing. Because you could have somebody that's doing generally good work, but they have an attitude problem which seeps into the people around them. And in fact, a lot of those people, once they're let go, the people around them breathe a sigh of relief and say, hey, that was actually affecting my experience at work. It was very negative. And I'm glad that this happened, even though they wouldn't have said it to that person's face, obviously. But like, that is harder to talk about. So I really do appreciate the fact of just giving that one sentence.
Yeah.
Can you say it one more time?
At-will separation for failure to meet X expectation. Yeah. So performance, attitude, attendance, things of that nature.
Yeah.
What an at-will separation means is that they're eligible to collect unemployment. This is not a disciplinary-based termination. It's just not working out. It's not the right fit without ever actually saying it's not the right fit. Because that's where you can easily dive into discriminatory lines.
Yeah.
But
before you get into that further, I want to dive into a little bit more of controversial discussion around that. But first, if you could please subscribe to the channel if you're watching this right now. If this is useful to you, if you just wrote that sentence down, for instance, we thrive on your subscribe, and we also need you to hit the bell, please. Hit the bell, you'll see more videos like this that are super useful to home service businesses to grow your company, because once you get past a certain amount, there's all these complicated things that can really, essentially, if not hurt you, keep you up at night. So talking about the discrimination topic, honestly, I think it holds some people back from hiring certain types of people because they don't want to ever feel like they could be perceived if they have to let them go. So how can you, this is a controversial topic, right? Like, how can you, I almost feel like it's scary to even discuss, but like, how can you be more inclusive while still being able to let somebody go if it's appropriate?
Well, you would have seen around news all over the place, corporations are rolling back their hardcore DEI policies and those initiatives because unfortunately it's, in many places, it's caused the exact problem that you just described, where you don't know which way to jump because you're going to land into a bear trap no matter which way you go. So everything that we do for companies is build out things like your interview process. What are you trying to find out about a person, regardless of any of those more superficial aspects? You want to try to figure out the character of the person that you're hiring. So you want to have open-ended questions to get them speaking. That way you get a better sense of who they are and what the likelihood that they're going to go down a dark path or cause problems or become a cancer.
Character is an interesting discussion.
Oh, it's
because I've had people say, I'm trying to do as little work as I possibly can at the job with their direct manager in earshot. And that to me screams a problem with character, but some people don't see it that way. So there's like confusion around and ultimately we have to be able to let people go that have the mindset that they're trying to do as little work as possible.
If you're not willing to do the work to take care of the customers, you can't work for this brand. And that's why I'm named the big picture, is because it's all connected to the brand. You have to have a brand that's worthy of being represented by people. So you can attract that talent that knows that the brand is going to stand behind them, just like you're expecting them to represent and do your best quality work for the customer.
I appreciate that very much. And just so we have a mid-podcast call to action for you, where can somebody go to check you out?
You can find me at thebigpictureconsulting.com, And you can always find me on Facebook as h.r.guy.
Hey there, are you a home service business owner that's tired of your answering service just kicking the can down the road? Well, we can help. Pink Collars will assign a dedicated, supported, and trained individual to answer your phones, emails, texts, and even more. Give us a call at 888-325-7465, or better yet, check us out online, www.pinkcollars.com.
Give me some other kind of broader problems that come up for you a lot, that come up with your clients a lot. I know that you work with Nick Thielen. Maybe you won't feel comfortable sharing any details about problems that he's had, but it's certainly problems that often get you a phone call, right?
Well, Nick's come a long way since I started with him about 4 years ago. And everything from what documents they have in place, how they're treating and talking to their employees, setting those clear expectations. I have helped provide that information along the path where he's just continued to grow, and he knows that he doesn't need to worry, because if something does seem fishy or something's going sideways, he calls us up. Now, luckily being a local company, I can even show up with very little notice if I absolutely need to. Not everybody has that option with me because I do serve all 50 states.
You're kind of like a fractional HR person.
Really, I'm a co-opt HR director.
That's really cool.
And I have an entire team beside me to execute everything that we do for companies.
How many people do you have?
Our office is bringing in number 9 next week.
Congratulations, that's huge.
Thank you.
The big picture gets big.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Let's go. So, yeah, what are some of those other pain points that people often call you about?
So documentation is always one. Dealing with my employee just did X. How do I respond?
Like unethical stuff to homeowner? Or?
Just questionable stuff. So this damage appeared on the truck is one that just happened with a client yesterday. Sent me a barrage of pictures. No, not Nick.
Okay, thank God.
Barrage of pictures and time stamped but they don't know exactly what happened. And the employees, I don't know what happened. Yeah, you hit a curb. It's obvious.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? And that's the question that I normally respond with first and foremost is, okay, this is what's happened. This is the situation. What do you want as a final outcome? Can I get you there? If you have a bad feeling, you think that an employee is going to go down a bad path or continue to corrupt other employees or cause more damage or anything like that, yeah, you should cut them loose before something more dramatic happens. And if you do that, that's where you're in the at-will situation. If you do take it step by step and you go through all the documentation and all the traditional discipline, you get to what's called a for-cause termination. For cause means that you're going to actively work to deny unemployment benefits because you were terminated for breaking this policy over and over again, attendance issues, we have all this documentation. That's where you have to get a little bit more particular. It should not be a surprise to an employee if you're firing them for cause. This should be the end of a road of lots of different things.
Ian, you're like the getting fired guy. How about that?
Well, I could switch to pre-hire drug testing.
Oh yeah. Hey, we don't need you to swing that far, okay? Ian? Chill.
Well, no. Even on that topic, a lot of companies do worry about marijuana and that.
Like somebody's not bringing enough for the whole team.
More along the lines of if
I
do
guys,
drug testing.
No, just kidding.
If I do drug testing, I'm not going to be able to hire anybody because everybody tests positive.
Yeah.
What's considered passing a background check, what's considered passing a drug test, is ultimately up to the employer and the risk that they're willing to take.
Sure. Because you don't really want people to be stoned at the job site all the time. And literally operating heavy equipment.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Especially when you get into trenching and shoring in the plumbing side.
Yeah.
Or those companies that are doing sewer or septic work. You have some major risk factors and you don't want them being under the influence of anything. I don't care.
Respect, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care what the employer's position is or the employee's position is on marijuana versus alcohol versus prescription pills. you can't be on the job and driving a company vehicle under the influence of anything. That's already against the law, no matter what the legality
So that's
is.
a fairly common topic for you.
Oh yeah.
And like, talk to me about what your advice would be. Let's say if Jim Bob's showing up stoned.
So,
and he's showing up like Mondays, which, okay, fine, Monday. But he's also showing up Tuesday stoned.
well, even
Wednesday, he's cleaning it up.
Monday we normally deal with the hangover calls.
Okay, yeah.
So they're hungover from something, they partied hard, whatever the case is, not fit to work. You have to start accountability. Send them home. You could fire them immediately if you have a reasonable suspicion drug test policy.
You're out. Get out.
Now, you have to have reasonable suspicion. You have to have those symptoms and then get it verified if you're going to pull the trigger.
Lightly cranky. Sometimes Jack is a little crankier on Mondays.
Glassy-eyed, slurred speech, sluggish, things of that nature.
I'm sure Jack every once in a while comes in on this podcast. I'm sure he's like, dude, stop talking to me during the podcast.
Yeah, I'd find it a little nerve-wracking
Yeah,
myself.
I would if I was, yeah. Sorry. So you talk to them and you say, hey, this isn't acceptable?
Yeah, you give them the chance. You know, it's like, whatever you're going to do on your time, that's fine. You still have to be an adult. You still have to be able to function, or else you can't represent the brand or serve our customers. Because I'm not allowed to put you at risk. And you going to work on electrical systems, trenches, climbing ladders.
You think about the fact that sometimes the owner goes out to the bar with the employees. Is there anything that you'd actively avoid if you were in that position? Like,
Don't get actively drunk.
Okay.
You lose control of yourself, you're going to say something stupid, your employees are going to say something stupid, and that will come back. Whether it's a harassment, it can be considered workplace violence, hostile work environment, even if you're after hours at a company type event.
But I got to be real with you, Ian. On the job sites, there's different rules. I was just out at one. And that one, they're perfectly perfect. They're all
Of course.
so perfect. But I'm saying...
And I saw you had all the safety equipment on
Yes.
on that little Bobcat.
Yes, because we're in the trenches, and you want a digital marketing company that's in the trenches, learning from the real work, the real value that you provide, so that they can market you better. But in that situation, there's often a little bit more banter. There's different kind of like ribbing and things like that happens on job sites. How do you, the same thing goes, like where somebody could take offense. Honestly, I don't think that this is normally a big problem. Like HVAC guys, plumbers, I don't know as much about electricians. They might be sensitive.
Depends on who you ask.
But there's a lot of ribbing and different things that go on. So how do you like, it doesn't seem like everyone's, got a stick up their butt about this.
No. And blue collar, there's a reason why there's very few HR professionals that specialize in the trades. It's because blue collar technicians think differently. We're not cubicle type people. I have a blue collar background myself. And that's, we do think differently. We're focused on the problems, solving the problems, doing the job. We're really not generally in touch with our feelings or the consideration of other people's feelings. What you have to put in place, though, what you have to drive as part of your brand awareness is if somebody is showing signs of discomfort, you need to be aware of that and tap on the brakes or find out if that is going to be a problem. And give that individual open channels to mention, to bring it up so that we can try to course correct and communicate as a team. Because like I said, communication is the key. So if an employee is really holding stuff down and really feeling offended, but they're not saying anything because they don't want to get ribbed more, they fear attack, that's a ticking time bomb. Something's going to happen, or that employee is going to bottle up, document stuff themselves. They may never even say anything until the lawsuit hits your desk.
And or to a lesser extent, like it affects performance significantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think like ultimately, most of the time we're talking about just getting the best out of our people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and like you don't really want to be in a spot where you're getting. I think that that's probably an opportunity for most plumbing and HVAC companies to grow, is like to find that sweet spot between ribbing and encouragement with your people and kind of create a culture where like if you're, let's say you have a top HVAC tech or something like that, like that they feel like they're getting, I know that's like different, but it's like the right amount of encouragement and respect and honor. And I think that just shows up differently in these environments. And I think that that's a little bit more difficult to navigate, because if you even go in to encourage somebody, they might be like, what is this?
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
Why are you?
Yeah.
Get away from me.
Yeah. So
let me get back to work.
Yeah. So how do we? Yeah, because I think that there's a culture of run the fucking call. You know, like, and that's not a bad thing, because it's kind of like we can't sit around focused on our feelings all the time. And so I wonder just how to balance those two things: the run the fucking call and culture.
The approach that I take is by focusing on the concept of you can be blue collar and you can be professional. And again, this brings us back to the brand and what does it mean to represent the brand? What's the uniform look like? You know, some companies, their guys are always running around with mastic all over their uniforms. They generally look like they've been working hard. But what is that triggering for the customer? Is that what you want associated with your brand, is smudges and stains and that sort of thing?
As a homeowner, I might even know what mastic is, so I might think it's something else.
Just dirt or or something worse. But the same thing with what comes out of our mouths. How you're speaking to each other on the job, others are hearing it. The customer, their kids. You could be riling up their freaking pets. You know, if you're just letting loose. So are you focused on doing the job, or are you focused on venting in real time and screwing off with your friend at the job site? The biggest problem that comes in, or the biggest opportunity for problems, comes in when actually the techs are in the office, especially if you don't have team unity between the support staff and the technical staff.
Okay.
Because you really have three teams in every company. You have line level, you have support, and you have leadership. All three are revolving around the brand to reinforce what that is. And all three are absolutely critical to do their functions, but they also have to be doing it in cohesion with each other.
Sure. And why is that the spot where there's often the most tension, and how can people make that better?
Well, as I said, blue collar tends to think differently. And as you said, on the job site, there are different rules. Well, if the guys are all together in the shop and they start ramping each other up, waiting for a meeting, or during a meeting, somebody tells a borderline joke or something like that, they're in the same environment as cubicle workers, as the office staff who may not have that blue collar background, that are more likely to not translate it the way that it's intended. And intention doesn't have much legal weight these days. It's all about how you respond to what I'm saying. That's where hostile work environment.
Keep your line workers out in the field. No. Get out of the office.
Again, it's communication. Finding ways to bring the team together. I recommend a day one ride along for every new employee, whether it's office, warehouse, tech. They should be in the field observing, not being an assistant, not being a helper, but observing what it means to represent the brand in the field. That gives support staff the opportunity to see what it is that their job is actually allowing to happen. And same thing in reverse. Partner up, even if it's just for a couple hours. Schedule that time to rotate the techs through to shadow the CSRs or dispatch, so that they're seeing what goes into allowing them to do their job, how both are absolutely critical to serve the customer. With that unity comes better understanding. With better understanding, there's grace in terms of, that was kind of borderline. There's going to be more comfort to address it if it's that close to the line or over. they need to understand that they can address those things and have it resolved without it boiling over to a lawsuit or a labor complaint.
Yeah, and I like that idea too. Just then the other way, it's like, well, if I am friends with these people in the office, if I have some respect for them, then maybe I will watch my mouth a little bit when I'm in the office. I'll be able to,
Crazy thought.
yeah. Hey, respect to that.
Show respect, get respect, and everybody working happier together.
I dig it. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Just industry stuff, or are you going to any events this fall?
I will be on site at Service World
Nice.
this year. First time in 5 years that I'm going back to my old stomping grounds.
Sweet.
I used to do a lot of work with all the groups in my previous company. Big Picture was born, and I've really just been cultivating the HR guy on Facebook, and that's what's driven my entire business. But starting to do that, so I'm going to Service World. I might do ACA, I still haven't decided, and probably the EGIA Epic.
Nice. I know that we're going to Home Service Freedom here, and then Pantheon, Service World. I guess we're doing a lot. The women.
This is the
HVAC,
show season.
Yeah, where it's all coming up very quick. And then I'm doing AHR with Mr. Fat Cheeto.
Okay.
So he's an HR problem waiting to happen.
He really is. I love his work.
So we're going to be out and about giving out complimentary zip cord belts. And I don't know, I just made that part up. But hey, we'll be out there, so check us out. But yeah, a lot of different events. Anything else you want to talk about industry related or no?
The other big red warning sign that I talk about all the time on Facebook, and I get a lot of questions about, overtime compliance,
Okay.
payroll. Just because you're paying somebody commission or piece rate or spiffs does not mean that money is not eligible for overtime.
Okay.
You have to do the math, you have to track the hours, because your technicians do not qualify as exempt employees.
Okay. It's a great one.
That-
Appreciate you sharing that.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. You need to find me if you're using incentive pay plans and not dealing with overtime, because that's the easiest way for the government to come in and kick you over.
And I might have seen you recently on Facebook. Just you were in like some kind of controversial thing, and we're not even going to talk about that today. I ultimately I like being the peacemaker on all these things. But it did get you, like I know that we're close, but it made me be like, hey, that guy would be fun to have on here. You're a great guest for podcasts, so other people should have him on. This is smart, important stuff for people to talk about. We don't just need to talk about sales.
I'm the dirty side of business.
Yeah.
I'm the other side of the coin. All the business coaches, they're teaching companies how to grow and build their business, build those revenues and profits. My job's to help you keep it. I don't want it to go to lawyers. I don't want it to go to the Department of Labor. I'd be fine with any of these political candidates coming in, first order of business, burn down the Department of Labor and put me out of a job. I believe in individual agreements, and that's why I'm big on communication. Mm-hmm. What do you want? This is what I'm willing to provide. Are we in agreement? Mm-hmm. The government just gets in the middle because they say, well, you are not legally allowed to make that agreement. So we have to protect you from the evil employer. Mm-hmm. That's the position on almost everything. Mm-hmm. So I help navigate that from a position of, I want your brand to succeed, and I don't want you to have to get hit by a lawyer before you take it seriously.
Wise words. Thank you everyone for watching. It's Ian, HR Guy. And check him out on Facebook. Ian, what's the .com one more time?
TheBigPictureConsulting.com.
Gang, gang. See you guys later.